What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative, a little channel I created in order to have a place to come and talk about all of the things that I read. Today, I'm going to share with you my October monthly wrap up. I'm just going to quickly recap all of the things that I read in the month of October, a few thoughts about it, and just how I felt about it. So let's start with my top favorites. First one on that pile is The Hod King by Josiah Bancroft, book 3 in the Books of Babel series. This book cemented the feeling for me that if you were to ask me what is a series you wish you could read again for the first time, the Books of Babel is that series. I absolutely love the whimsy, just the darkness, how it flip-flops between the two, the character development. If you're a character-driven reader, you will love the series. The plot. If you are a plot-driven reader, you will love this series. Although I do think if you're more plot-driven rather than character-driven, you might get a little more aggravated with some of the characters. But guys, I just love this series. I love this book. Prior to reading The Hod King, Arm of the Sphinx, the second book was my favorite. And I was like, there's no way Josiah Bancroft is going to top what he pulled off in this one. He did. He proved me wrong. He heard me and thought, challenge accepted. The next one out of my most loved stack of the month is Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This is a reread, and it is still an all the stars you could ever give book. This story is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It's so honest. It's authentic. It's about the expectations the older generation puts on the younger generation. So the story is about Janie and learning who she is, what she wants, and having the courage to take what she wants. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's going to be an annual reread. Another one that was actually a surprise for me. This book did not start out to be a 5-star top tier read for me. It really didn't. It had so many similarities with familiar fantasy tropes, but I knew to be patient because I wanted to give the author time to put his own unique spin or twist to the story. And it paid off because he did. I love that his wizard was not useless. She was actually just a person, a mortal who was learning herself. And I just really loved that. I loved the story of rebellion and revolution of the people. There's so much to love about it. And also, Gawain is another of one of my top tier reads this month. This one is J.P. Harker's new series. He is the author of the Caledon Saga, another fantasy series that a lot of people call it Viking inspired. This one is Arthurian inspired. It's about the Knights of the Round Table before they are Arthur's Knights, before Camelot has been founded. And I absolutely love it. It's about Gawain, who is one of the sons of King Lot. It's kind of his coming of age story combined with his first feat as a future warrior of King Lot, of Camelot. And guys, it was so good. I loved it. I love the exploration of the religious themes. I love the struggle of the nobility because they have all these expectations. There's just so much to love about this one, and I cannot wait for the second book in that series. Next is The Mask of Mirrors, which is another reread for me. This one is a Venetian-inspired story. I love the complex society. I love the political maneuverings of the different houses, those that are allies, those that are enemies, those that are conspiring together under the noses of others. One of our main characters, Ren, she's a con artist. She is a river rat. And she is pulling this big con where she is this long-lost daughter of a noblewoman from House Trimentis. And her goal is she wants to get herself adopted into House Trimentis so she can siphon off their wealth, basically. Only problem is, joke's on her, this house has no money. But she's already in the midst of her con before she realizes it. And then what's funny is this web just really gets spun and she's doing all of these things, helping all of these people, and she's doing it out of the goodness of her heart because there's really, at this point, nothing she's gonna get out of it. I mean, even if she got adopted into this house, this noble house, they are basically on the edge of extinction. Plus, we have a masked character called the Rook, who is a sort of Zorro Robin Hood type. He protects those that are being oppressed by the nobility. And oh my gosh, guys, I love all these characters. The good ones, the bad ones. They're all so interesting. They're also conniving. They're so sexy. I love this book. It is not smutty. It is sensual, but it is not smutty. Like, nothing happens except some of the things that are not acceptable for the nobles to do out in public. Like, some of those things kind of happen and you're just like, whew, let me just calm down. And so now we'll drop it down one tier and we're going to talk about The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I tried reading this one physically and it was not doing it for me. So I got the audiobook and the audiobook changed everything. Oh my gosh. A French classic that is read to you by someone who can speak French. If he couldn't speak French and was just able to do the accent and do the pronunciations perfectly, I am doubly impressed. But this book is an elaborate revenge story. It does have some places that it drags, because I did read the unabridged version, but my goodness, listening to it on audio, it just changed my life. I'm so glad that I read it, because there are so many things that I have read since and prior that I can tell took inspiration from it, and so that makes it fun. Guys, that Alexander Dumas is just wonderful. The only other thing I'd ever read to him previous to The Count of Monte Cristo was The Three Musketeers. I am obsessed with The Three Musketeers. I've watched just about every movie iteration you can think of. I'm currently watching The Musketeers on Amazon Prime, and I'm just loving that too. And then another from that stack is Joe Abercrombie's short story collection, Sharp Ends. Sharp Ends are stories from the first law world. I had expectations going in that interfered with my enjoyment to begin with. Once I saw a pattern in what Abercrombie was doing with this collection though, I was all in. And the last two stories they were so good. I enjoyed this so much. Once I kind of got past, like, don't go into this thinking you're going to be reading all stories about Glocta, Baez, Logan, all that. Don't go into it expecting like your heavy hitters to be mentioned here, and you'll have a much better time. Next up is Sweet Pea by C.J. Skuse. I love it. This one was a surprise hit for me too. I don't know how to classify this one. It's a serial killer story. I love serial killers, but there is so much humor in this one, and it is definitely off the wall humor. It's not a humor that will be appreciated by all. You're in the head of the serial killer, our main character Rhiannon, and you are getting her unfiltered thoughts about people. Keyword, unfiltered. Now, there is something that did happen to her. You find out over the course of the story that explains why she is the way that she is and thinks it the way that she does. But I was just getting so tickled because the book is written like it's a diary. Every chapter is a day. And at the start of that day, almost every day, she begins with her kill list. People that just pissed her off that day that she wants to kill. And it is such a great story. But it really surprised me because at the beginning I was interested because I thought it was really funny. But it morphed into, I became really invested in Rhiannon as a character. And by the end, even though she was a serial killer, like, I didn't want her to get caught. It's such a great story. I will be continuing that series. And next up out of that pile of enjoyment is The Unwelcome by Jacob Stephen Moore. I have filmed a dedicated review for this one. I don't know if it will go up before this one or after. Keep an eye out for it. If it's not up yet, it will be soon. This one was such an enjoyable horror story. It's the trope that I grew up loving as a child. The first horror movie franchise I remember loving as a little girl was the Friday the 13th movies. And they all started with a group of kids going camping or a family going camping. And this one, we've got 4 college students that are not going camping per se, but they're going to a secluded cabin in the woods. And but instead of a guy in a hockey mask and a machete, we've got a body snatcher. And he's not a body snatcher like any you would have ever read about or seen. So unique, so interesting, loved it. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I grinned like a fool reading this book. I just enjoyed it that much because it was so interesting and I loved what the author did with it. So this one was an absolute delight. Hopefully that review will be up soon. And then the final book that I read this last month is Aching God by Mike Shell. This one I have also filmed a dedicated review that I also don't know if it is up yet or not, but it should be up soon. This I did as part of a read along with Andrew's Wizardly Reads on his Discord. We're reading the entire trilogy. This one I already knew I was going to really enjoy. It's like a D&D campaign, another quest or fellowship trope, but a lot darker than the Ember Blade. Like, the Ember Blade was just straight up epic fantasy. This one was dark fantasy, which really appealed to me because you guys know I love horror just as much as I do fantasy, and this one was just a healthy mix of the two that just, it was so good. The only complaint that I personally had is I felt the author spent too much time getting us to the end goal in this one. It just felt like it took way too long. It is entirely possible in the next two books, some of what happened here that I felt took too long, that could have been cut, might become important, so I could be wrong. I will revisit that when I finish the trilogy. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out, because it didn't even occur to me until I just said that it could be a longer setup, which would be really amazing, especially if it pays off well. And that appears to be all of the books that I knocked out in the month of October. I had an absolutely phenomenal reading month. I just, zero complaints, like there were no duds. Now, what was my favorite read of the month? That's always so hard to pick like one favorite because I read in so many different genres. So I won't count the two rereads. I can't pick a top favorite, honestly. There was really not one. Okay, I'm lying. I'm gonna pick The Hod King. I think Arm of the Sphinx won last month too. It was just so different, unlike any fantasy I have ever read. So I guess Josiah Bancroft is just ending up being the fantasy man of the year for me. That is gonna do it for me today. Those were all the books that I read in the month of October. Some of them have dedicated reviews that may or may not be up on the channel. If they are, I will have them linked below. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. Of all of these books, are any of them ones that you read, and which one was your favorite? I will have links to all of these books in the description box down below to make it easy if you're interested in looking at picking up any of them for yourself. I will have an Amazon link for each one for all of my US friends, and I will have my Blackwell's link for all of my UK friends. If you're picking any of these up, please leave me a comment down below and let me know so we can chat about it when you read it. Guys, thank you again so much for watching. Your support of the channel just absolutely means the world to me. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.